Before we get started with this Rambles review, everyone, full disclosure, I did receive this free copy of Dragon Age The Veilguard from EA themselves, so please take my opinion of this game with a grain of salt. And with all that being said and out of the way, what's going on, ladies and gents, everyone? My name is Malcolm, also known as Baytuh, and today I'm here to bring you guys a rambling review of Dragon Age The Veilguard. I know I'm about like 2 weeks late or so, but I was taking my time with this game, going through all of it, playing all of the side quests, companion quests, all that good jazz under the sun and moon and Fen'Harel himself. And yeah, it took me like 60 hours to beat this game, but yeah, I have thoughts on this game, and no, not many negative thoughts because I think it's pretty amazing, but I'll get to that in a moment. Basically, what a rambling review from yours truly is take a game I've done a walkthrough of and expand on my TLDR thoughts on that game, go a little bit more in depth on those thoughts, what I like, dislike about it, everything in between, whether if it's a game I really love or it's a game I really hate like Modern Warfare 3 last year or whatnot, or somewhere in between like Stellar Blade earlier this year. And yeah, just ramble on. At the end of hopefully the ramble review, I portray my thoughts in the most I don't think significant is the word I'm looking for, but in a suffice way that you all can understand where I'm coming from and how I got to the conclusion A, B, and C, and not hopefully jump from A, B to Z, you know what I mean? Yeah. And look, I know this game, Veilguard in particular, is a hot button issue for a lot of people. Look, I'm going to be mostly positive on my rambling review, my review of this game, and it's just my opinion at the end of the day. Don't take it as law or fact or religion, There's plenty of, opinions and thoughts on this game under the freaking sun. So yeah, it's just my opinion, and that's okay at the end of the day. Anywho, before we get started with this rambling review, if you guys could please leave a like on this video if you guys like what you saw. Please subscribe for more content, helps out this channel lots. Also, when you do subscribe, make sure to hit the little notification bell next to the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any content I post on this channel, and make sure you set those notifications to all as well. Please share my channel and my videos to all your friends, families, cats, and dogs, and whoever who knows. And you guys can follow me on Twitter and on Blue Sky as well at Baytuh, B-A-Y-T-U-H. If you want to keep supporting me even further, you can do so by donating to my Patreon, PayPal, YouTube Super Thanks, leaving a tip, or becoming a YouTube member on my channel. That is patreon.com/Baytuh, B-A-Y-T-U-H, and or paypal.me/Baytuh, B-A-Y-T-U-H, and or through YouTube Super Thanks. All you have to do is click on any one of my videos that are monetized, which is 99.9% of them. Then hit the load my heart thanks button, donate however much you want. But regardless how you choose to support me further, any and all donations every once a month are appreciated and is 100% completely optional. With all that being said and out of the way, without further ado, let's get started on this rambling review. First off, let me start by saying thank you, EA, for letting Bioware finally do what they do best, making single-player narrative-driven RPGs. In my opinion, Bioware is back. But also in the same breath, a big fuck you, EA, for forcing Bioware to not make the games they do best and taking so long to get back to this point. Look, I'm all for devs trying something new, something outside of their wheelhouse, but to place all of your bets on a game like Anthem, which by the way has great and fun gameplay that we even see some of its mechanics in Veilguard, like priming and detonating, was a very, very bad call. Like, look at what WB is doing to Rocksteady. Come on now. Now, anywho, back to Veilguard. After a little over 60 hours with all side, faction, and companion quests completed, also getting all of the factions to 3 stars and companions to Hero of the Veilguard status, Dragon Age The Veilguard, for me at least, is a 9 out of 10 amazing game. Not only is it my game of the year for 2024 so far, beating out the likes of Shadow of the Erdtree and Cinema Saga Hellblade 2, but it's my overall favorite Dragon Age game in many, many regards. Now, some quick TLDR backstory with me and Dragon Age. Back in 2014 was the first time I experienced a Dragon Age game with Inquisition. I did a full gameplay walkthrough of it back in the day. I thought it was amazing. I loved it. It was my game of the year that year, and I played it again for a second time in early 2015 before my favorite game of all time came out, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Now let's fast forward to summer 2024. EA announced that Veilguard is coming out this fall, so I decided to do my first time playthroughs / walkthroughs of Dragon Age Origins 2 and a third playthrough of Inquisition, and given how much people hated the look of the combat of Veilguard at the time and praised Origins up the wazoo, I was really looking forward to this mythical tactical gameplay people loved so much, and yeah, this was basically my experience with it. Nah, for real though, honestly, I think the combat is pretty bad in Origins, even though I think the game is great overall with phenomenal writing with its characters and companions. Even a lot of the missions, definitely with the werewolf and the elves missions with the humans and whatnot, freaking phenomenal shit, guys. Same thing with Dragon Age 2. The gameplay is better than Origins, but ultimately it's still meh. And Inquisition is better, but it was whatever as well. All in all, I have big gripes with those games, but they're still really great. Even after my third playthrough of Inquisition, that game not being as amazing as I thought it was back in 2014 and early 2015, but it's still great overall. And goodness freaking gracious, the word table really ruins a lot of that game. I played it on my Xbox Series X, and Jesus, I know there's mods on PC that you can like negate a lot of the word table stuff, but like, God, Jesus, it is a lot worse than I remember. But hey, it's still a great game. And just to get ahead of some of those comments that I might see on, you know, my thoughts on this particular section, or my thoughts on Origins 2 and Inquisition. No, it necessarily doesn't have to do with the game being old or anything like that. Like, there's a lot of old freaking games with phenomenal gameplay that still holds up today. Like, a perfect example is one of my favorite games of all time in my top 5 is Ninja Gaiden Black. I think that game is a 10 out of 10 beyond belief masterpiece of a game that has pretty great combat, but with the combat still holding up to this day. But isn't the best combat in the series? No, that goes to its freaking dog shit of a sequel game, Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge. But the combat in Black is still freaking great and it holds up. So no, it doesn't have to do with the game being old and has, you know, feels old. No. And another thing I've been seeing on, you know, the combat of Dragon Age, and people have said to me, well, Baytuh, you don't play Dragon Age for the gameplay, the combat, or where have you not? You play for the story, the world building, the lore, the companions, the characters, all that good jazz. And to that I say, okay, sure, but wouldn't it be awesome if Dragon Age finally had some kick-ass combat in it for once, on top of a banger-ass story, lore, world building, characters, missions, all that good jazz? Well, it seems like we finally got that with Dragon Age The Veilguard, so I call that a big win. Veilguard's gameplay is way more action focused than the other three, and Warrior, the class I pick in games like this the most, except for in Baldur's Gate 3, I chose Monk because I wanted to do some dope monk shit, got the biggest glow up in my opinion. I played as a warrior in the first 2 Dragon Age games, not having a good time with that at all, and went rogue Tempest subclass for Inquisition, having somewhat of a better time with that. But for Veilguard, going warrior Reaper subclass in Veilguard was amazing. Like, goodness freaking gracious, the combat sings so damn much, basically being Captain America with a sword, doing extra shield bounce damage with the added necrotic damage as well, was a dream. It was so freaking cool. And like, my game plan before the game was coming out was, you know, my first playthrough of the game was I was gonna play as a female Shadow Dragon elf romancing Taj, warrior with the subclass Reaper and whatnot. I freaking love that, love all of that. My second playthrough, I was gonna be, I don't know, probably a Grey Warden or a Morn Watch mage and whatnot. But like, after 60 hours of warrior combat, like being Captain America with a sword, like, how is Bioware honestly gonna expect me to switch classes to a mage or a rogue? Or like, I've seen mage gameplay, don't get me wrong, it looks great, spell bleed and all that good jazz looks freaking great, but like, come on now, that shield bouncing, you know, going back and forth, and you could shield bounce multiple times before your shield has to recharge and whatnot. Like, I don't know how they expect me to switch classes on my second second playthrough or whatnot. Like, I don't know if I could do it because playing as a warrior is so damn fun for once in a Dragon Age game. It finally feels like Bioware understands that warriors can be somewhat agile and be tanky while doing high damage all at the same time. Also, to add, the combat and the mechanics in Dragon Age The Veilguard feels like Bioware is very confident in their gameplay systems, their vision this time around. Again, people raved about the tactical nature of Origins, and I just didn't see it. I played it like I played Inquisition, like a hack and slash. And you know, I'm of the firm belief that developers and somewhat publishers don't really change their gameplay philosophy of a video game unless, you know, something just isn't working in its sequels and whatnot, or it's been, you know, the franchise has been going out for a while. Why not, you know, freshen up a bit with some new mechanics like Halo and whatnot? And we see how that got us. Granted, I love Halo 4, 5, and Infinite's gameplay. I know others don't. And Dragon Age's case, like each game has different gameplay scenarios with its, you know, quote, I'm using air quotes right now because again, I just didn't see it for Origins, but like Origins, I guess, had tactical style gameplay. With 2, it was more action hack and slash focus. With Inquisition, it was like a mix. They were trying to find a balance, like a mix between Origins and 2, but I didn't think it worked out, even though I think it's the best of those three, of the two, or three, I should say. I just didn't think it was, you know, fully utilized and whatnot. Like, at the end of the day, Bioware and EA have the stats of like how, you know, people using the tactical mechanics or whatever in Origins, in Inquisition. I felt like, and I feel like probably they were like, well, most people play the games like a action hack and slash, so let's make the game like an action hack and slash, you know, very God of War 2018 God of War Ragnarok like, which I think it works out pretty stinking well for them. Anywho, in Veilguard, the gameplay philosophy behind the whole is a weird transition, I know, but stick with me. A lot of the gameplay mechanics, the philosophy behind Veilguard, definitely when it comes to the priming and detonating mechanic they brought over from Anthem, works really well, and I think it's a natural fit for this game. Same with how the combat is very quick. It's aggressive, way more aggressive than the other three, the past 3 Dragon Age games. Sure, did they turn the gameplay into a more Mass Effect vibe? Yeah, but it works so freaking well, so I'm personally all for it. So much so that I believe this gameplay might be the style we see going forward with Dragon Age in the future, which again, I'm personally happy with. And again, this is the most confident I've seen Bioware with their gameplay in a Dragon Age game, from utilizing your companions and having great party composition during combat to how smooth and fluid the gameplay feels. This is the first Dragon Age game where I actually look forward to fighting enemies, and it's pretty freaking great to see. Like in the other 3 Dragon Age games, I set the difficulty down to baby's ass baby mode, and I ran past most of the enemies in the game, only fought the ones that I actually had to, because again, the combat in those games were, you know, really bad to subpar, which, you know, sucks, because in my personal opinion, it doesn't matter what type of game you know a developer's making, gameplay is always king. Even if it's a game like, you know, a walking sim like, you know, style type game like Life is Strange, as long as I'm having fun with the gameplay, with its mechanics and whatnot, you know, we're already halfway there of me liking and having, you know, saying the game is good. Like a perfect example is Stellar Blade that came out earlier this year. Like the gameplay in that game is really great, with a banging, it has great soundtrack, but everything else in that game is pretty meh, whatever. And ultimately that game is, you know, a borderline good game because the gameplay is doing most of the heavy lifting. It's kind of the opposite with Dragon Age Origins 2 and Inquisition, where, you know, the world building, the characters, the companions, the story, a lot of that stuff is really great, but the gameplay is really, you know, crap in a lot of those games. I mean, in all those games aside from Veilguard. But ultimately those games, you know, again, the story, the companions, the music, the world building, the lore and all that stuff, doing most of the heavy lifting. So yeah, gameplay of Veilguard, pretty freaking amazing. Love it. Moving on to story, factions, and companions. First, the story. Days after beating the game, getting the best possible ending, and redeeming Solus himself, I can confidently say that in my personal opinion, this story is tied with Dragon Age 2 and being #1 for me. It basically follows the same save the world plot Bioware is known for at this point. The big goober got out and it's causing trouble. In this case, it's Algernon Gillenay, and you, main Portacoon, have to run around gathering the help of different factions while also helping them with their own problems as well. It's pretty cut and dry. Like I said, Bioware is known for this shit at this point. Every Dragon Age game does this except for 2, which honestly is a big reason why I love it so much. Smaller scale story, but worldwide reaching consequences. With Veilguard though, it's pretty interesting. Like I said, it's the big save the world plot for the main quest, but it also has the smaller scale stories with worldwide reaching consequences that's mostly tied to the factions and the companions, like the Grey Wardens, Harding, and Davern's quest lines. I know Act 3 is the biggest highlight for many people, me included, but I really love Act 1 a lot. The beginning starts big and throughout it felt like a huge buildup for me. Not only was I jazzed about exploring a part of Thedas I wasn't all that familiar with, but I got some great story beats in there too. From meeting Big Daddy Davern and Asan with the Gloom Howler kidnapping the Griffins, to choosing Minrathous over Treviso, Lucana's attitude changing and becoming hardened, and all of that coming to a head with the siege of Weishaupt to close out Act 1. Yo, Act 1 was pretty freaking great. Sure, there was like some slow moments here and there and whatnot, but I think, you know, comparing, you know, Act 1s through the Dragon Age game, I'm trying not to compare, you know, Dragon Age games to Dragon Age games and whatnot. I'm trying to totally focus on Dragon Age The Veilguard, but you know, I kind of can't help it in this case. Like, but I would say that like Act 1 is very comparable to Act 1 in Dragon Age Origins, which I thought the Act 1 that game is really, I mean, definitely the backstory I chose as a Dalish elf in the city, which I totally forgot to blank on the name of the city, with the whole racism and what happens to your cousin. Like, oh my goodness, dark shit all around. I just think Act 1 in Veilguard is, you know, does a lot more than people give it credit for. Personally, that's just what I think. Again, I guess I'm a little biased because again, I really love this game. I dug it. It is my game of the year for 2024 so far, but hey, that's just me. Act 2 though is my favorite set of quests in the game because it's dedicated to your companions and your allies, the factions, which I love so much. Something that I felt like the other Dragon Age games have been lacking. Your companions and allies in the spotlight that's not just tied to, you know, out in the world doing quests, you know, your random party banter, or giving them a gift or two, or going on an annoying fetch quest with them. Like, there's a lot more to it in Dragon Age The Veilguard. Also, I love exploring the crossroads and doing the Regrets of the Dread Wolf quest and finally getting answers to a fat chunk of questions I've had about the lore for a very long time. Not very long time, for I mean, since Dragon Age Inquisition, I should say, since I first played it almost a decade ago, but definitely, you know, hearing about, you know, the Dread Wolf and the Elven Lure is back in Dragon Age 2 and whatnot, and definitely learning more about that big asshole Mythal. So yeah, I dug the story from beginning to end with the stakes getting higher and higher, but what about the characters, companions, and factions? Well, that's easy. Even though there are some companions in Dragon Age Origins and 2 that I think that are better, overall, I think pound for pound, the companions in Veilguard are the best in the series. For me at least, there wasn't one I felt met or did not care for, like kind of like a Blackwall or Sarah or freaking Meryl. Goodness, I wish Meryl was in Veilguard. Like, she would have loved all the situations that the Dalish elves and Arthur Forest, the Veiljumpers would get into, man, because I wanted to kill her. I'm sorry, I just go on this rant, like, I've gone on this rant before, but like, her questline in Dragon Age 2 upset. Definitely the ending. Everyone told her that's what she was going to do, what she was doing was a bad idea. Anders, that's his name, right? Anders, the guy who has a freaking spirit of justice, a demon of justice or whatever, inside of him was saying this was a bad idea. Goodness gracious, man, I wanted to freaking kill her so bad if she was in Dragon Age. Anyways, yeah, so going back to Veilguard and the companions, yeah, I love all of them and their performances. Tosh, Balar, and Davin being the highlights for me personally, but some of their quest lines and stories could have used more time. Not Tosh and Davin, Balar, I would say here and there just a little bit. Balar honestly being the biggest surprise, honestly, like, because the first time we saw her, I think I could definitely, you know, I could probably speak for everyone, but I felt like we all had the same reaction of like, oh no, it's another Sarah. But no, Balar may have that plucky, hyper-focused, big brain attitude. She also has a clear vision of what she wants and who she wants to be, which comes together into a really heartbreaking moment at the very end of her quest line questline with her and her brother. During outings with her, she has this air of like, you know, in the quiet moments between you, Rook and her, like she has this, you know, air of like she kind of like drops the act sometimes, you know. I wouldn't say her plucky nature is an act, but like it's definitely part of her personality. But like there's like a part of her that's like, you know, pretty calm and collective and very, you know, pretty mature given her high charismatic attitude. Big Daddy Dara is also great. How he grew to caring for Asan, willing to go John Wick on any motherfucker who dares to look at Asan weird, is something that me, a dog owner of a rat terrier, my little girl Cassie, and big boy Junior Husky boy, knows all too well. Also going with the outcome where the Griffins are the new guardians of Arlington Forest and not going back to the Grey Wardens after finding out that they used to blight them, to me is the best outcome for everyone. Taj has my favorite quest line alongside Davray. Not only were they struggling with their identity, even though some of the writing was really on the nose at a lot of points, but I liked it either way. But the whole Dragon King arc and finding out about ancient Kanari was pretty damn sweet. Also, big fan of their romance. We're really big fan of it. That's another thing that I really like about Veilguard. The big theme is about regret, sure, but I also think it's about identity as well. Rather, Davrin choosing that the Griffins go to Arlington Forest, starting over and having their new identity be tied to being the guardians of Arlington, or rather they should stay with the Grey Wardens because their identity lies there to the Grey Wardens' origins, or Ned being a shadowy protector of Doctone or inspiration for its people, or Tosh not only being, you know, having with body identity, but their heritage as well. Even the Dread Wolf, Finn Harrell himself, the Great Rebellion leader, or the Lord of Lies and Betrayal. Now, Emmerich and Harding, on the other hand, is something that, again, I love all the companions in the game. I think they range from either being great to amazing, but I really wish we had more time with their stories and their quest lines and whatnot. Definitely Harding, with her getting, you know, magic powers and, you know, her ties to the Titans, all the dwarves, their ties to the Titans and whatnot, and their dreams and the Fane and all that good jazz. In my personal opinion, that should have played a much bigger role to the overall narrative of Veilguard, but it really just doesn't. It's really just tied to her first getting her powers by touching Solus's lyrium dagger, and then her companion quest line. That's about it. It's not really tied to, you know, the Elvenors or anything like that, which is, you know, very unfortunate for me, in my personal opinion. My boy Emmerich, though, he's just a polite gentleman, and, you know, not to go on a small rant, because again, like I said, I do love all of the companions. I think they range from great to amazing, every single one of them, but I feel like he's very interesting. I do enjoy his quest line and his whole story and what he's all about. Like, he's a necromancer who's scared of death. I think that's honestly pretty, you know, genius in my personal opinion. Someone who deals with death, but it's, you know, he's scared of dying, and, you know, so much so that he wants to achieve lichdom. Am I saying that right? Lichdom. So, you know, Vecna, the Whisper one. So he can be immortal, so he doesn't have to deal with mortaldom and all that stuff. And I'm like, that's cool. But him with his God, what's her freaking name? The Aerocross or whatever, the main big bad in his questline. I feel like that comes and goes pretty quickly. I wish we had, you know, like another quest or two, you know, not necessarily with them together, but building out that head to head. But I do love going to, you know, set out the flowers and talking to, and, you know, at his parents' grave, and him being like, yeah, like, I am, like, you know, even though I'm a necromancer, I am terrified of dying. I'm terrified of my own death and whatnot. I found that very endearing, which, to not necessarily jump off script from what I'm talking about here, but this could definitely, you know, I could definitely with Emmerich's, how I'm feeling about Emmerich and his utilization in the story and whatnot, could definitely be tied into my thoughts on the factions in this game. I feel like the factions, I don't want to say hit or miss. I like all the factions, but I feel like a lot of them could have had better and a lot more utilizations. I think slam dunk BioWare nailed it when it came to the Grey Wardens. Like, they definitely have a big stake and, you know, a big stake when it comes to the main story, the plot. It definitely what happens to that, you know, the siege of Weishaupt and killing Gilneade's blighted dragons. Like, that was a really fucking awesome moment. And same thing with, you know, Nev and the Shadow Dragons and Lucanas with Treviso and their team of crows. Like, they all have personal, you know, stakes in this race and, you know, the going ons, because they both, you know, both Minrathous and Treviso gets attacked by Gilneade's blighted dragons. But for, you know, with Lords of Fortune and the Morn Watchers, the Morn Watch, I really don't know necessarily why, like, what, you know, kind of like the point in the game kind of is. Don't get me wrong, it's always great to see our dearly beloved, our girl Isabella. I mean, she's still looking fine like a glass of wine, like freaking always. Same thing with Morgan. But like, other than, you know, hunting dragons, which again, that's their whole stick. Like, you know, they're treasure hunters, hunting beasts and, you know, and you know, dragons and whatnot. That's their whole thing. But like, I don't know. I mean, definitely when it comes to Morn Watch, like, I don't know, the big thing in the game, it definitely, like, with that first, you know, reveal trailer introducing all the characters, you know, American Harden were like, yeah, we need a Fade expert. I love our boy Emmer, the polite gentleman himself, but I didn't really see his Fade expertise being a big part of the narrative in the game. We still go about our days, and we didn't get like Emmerich was like, oh yeah, this happens in the Fade, and we do this, and this. If freaking anything, Ballard was more of the, you know, the kind of like the Fade expert, definitely when it came to the elven artifacts and whatnot, but like with the Fade expertise and whatnot. So again, it, you know, just weird, you know, weird utilizations like that. I wish they had a, you know, bigger presence. I mean, the Mortal Watchers whole, you know, their whole quest chain just dealt with freaking, you know, dealing with hauntings around Thedas, all the locations you could travel to in Veilguard, which was, you know, had some, you know, cool fights and whatnot. It definitely, you know, the quest line, pinnacle of its kind, dealing with the undead dragon, that was really cool. But I don't know, I felt like a lot of, you know, the you know, the Grey Wardens dealing with their quest line, definitely like how, you know, the end of their quest line, how that, you know, the different voice that they're hearing that's not the bite, how that ties to, you know, that could tie to the future of Dragon Age and whatnot. Like, I felt like them and the Shadow Dragons and Team of Crows, Nev, Davrit, and Lucanus have, like, you know, there's, you know, there's utilization, there's like a, you know, big connection, a through line, a thread with the overall big narrative in Veilguard. Even, you know, Ballara, because, you know, Arthane Forest and the Veil Jumpers and the elves there being a huge target for not only the Venatori but Elganon and the Blight there as well. Like, I don't know, I just wish there was, you know, a bigger role. I don't necessarily need the faction, excuse me, I don't know why my voice cracked right there. I don't necessarily need the factions to, you know, have big ties to the narrative, but when most of the factions have, like, you know, big reasons for being here, I don't know. Like I said, I don't hate that, you know, Lords of Fortunes or Morn Watch don't have a big narrative threads tied to the overarching, you know, story. It just be, you know, nice to see, you know, more utilization of them. Even though I don't know, I'm going back and forth right now. I'm flip-flopping right now. Even though their utilization, you know, what they do, who they are, makes sense. But yeah, all in all, I'm you know, fine with the factions. I think, again, most are good, most I like. I just wish they had, you know, more utilization. Alrighty, everyone, let's round out this rambling review with some random rambles, or extra rambles, I should say. Basically, rambles I don't have to go into full details like my other sections in this review. Let's start by Rook. I think Rook, I've been going back and forth when it comes to Rook. I think they're a good protagonist. At first, when I beat the game, I was like, yeah, they're both, you know, my least favorite protagonist in Dragon Age. Not necessarily like the worst or anything. Like I said, I think, you know, my Rook, she's pretty good. Definitely, you know, being voiced by the amazing Erika Ishii. But I felt like, I don't know, Rook was a little bit too YA for me, young adult from their attitude, but there are like some really great serious moments of calmness and you know, hecticness that, you know, Rook really shined out, you know, to being better than, you know, even Hawk, and Hawk is my favorite Dragon Age protagonist. So I would say that Rook is like tied with, I would say the Inquisitor, and I would say the Inquisitor, like tied with Inquisitor. I would say like Hawk is my favorite, followed by Hero of Ferelden, but mainly because of like the different permutation, how you can make your Hero of Ferelden. Granted, in these type of, you know, video games and RPGs, I usually go the Paragon route, but, you know, I definitely chose some, you know, some evil and, you know, purple, you know, choices with my Hero of Ferelden. Then I'd say Inquisitor and Rook are tied for me. I would say also I want to add that I think, and I don't know, I'm not gonna say the Inquisitor, he, you know, ranks a little bit of a scooch higher than Rook, which there are some moments where I like roll my eyes when it comes to Inquisitor and, you know, his demeanor. Granted, it's probably my choices and whatnot, but, you know, there are a lot of moments that I'm like, man, Rook is pretty fucking awesome. I really love her. So I'd say, you know, tied with her. Again, I love them all, but I would say Inquisitor and Rook are pretty tied for me, with Hawk being number one. You honestly cannot beat Purple Hawk. Like, her attitude, my Annette Hawk, definitely when, you know, Annette Hawk, when I romanced Isabella in Dragon Age 2, yeah, we were having a threesome with me, Isabella, and Zavern. Yeah, we were definitely, you know, we were definitely balling in that game. And speaking of the Inquisitor, I feel like the Inquisitor should have had a bigger role in Veilguard, other than just them visiting Mithrathas, Morgan, you know, teleporting him to Mithrathas and whatnot, and them talking about, you know, doing some quickie updates, and him giving some quickie updates that's happening in in Ferelden and Orlais and whatnot, and them talking about Solus. I felt like their presence should have been a lot bigger, not like too big, but I would say like on the size of like Morgan from Inquisition. I felt like that would have been a greater presence. Like, I chose the option in the World State Day where I disbanded the Inquisition instead of giving it over to the Chantry. And, you know, towards the end of the game, which Act 3, you know, again, phenomenal. The Last Gambit, fucking awesome. The freaking Dragon Age fans' wet dream right there. And the Inquisitor, Morgan, and all of our allies and whatnot show up, and they're fighting and whatnot. But like, Inquisitor shows up in their Shadow Dragon outfit with no weapons or anything like that. Like, did they just come alone? Like, what's going on there? Like, I don't, like, would that have changed if we chose to have the Inquisition still around, but it's an army or whatever, a sect of the Chantry? Like, I don't know, that felt a little odd to me. I felt like having a little bit a bigger presence in the game would have helped a lot. I don't know if that was the original, you know, maybe the Inquisitor was gonna have a bigger role in the game, and, you know, Bioware just didn't have enough time or budget, because they made this game in 3.5 years, if I'm not mistaken, not 10 years that I think a lot of people, you know, thought they did. You know, granted, you know, with EA being EA and whatnot. And also in the same breath, alongside with the Inquisitor, the World States, I'm ultimately okay with how the World States were. I just felt like to a point there was like no point of it, because I felt like, even like, other than if you don't do a female elf in Romance Solus, it was kind of pointless, because I felt like you can, if you choose to, like, you know, vow to stop Solus and whatnot, you can still convince the Inquisitor to like forgive Solus and still get, you know, the Solus redemption ending and whatnot. But I don't know, I was fine with overall with the World State stuff. I do wish, you know, like, seeing, you know, the updates in Ferelden with, you know, if it's, you know, who's the new divine, is it Cassandra or Liliana, and, you know, what's the updates on Hawk. Like, I chose to leave that one freaking random Grey Warden guy in the Fade. Where's Hawk? Because at the end of that arc in Dragon Age Inquisition, Hawk said they, you know, she was going up to, you know, going to Tevinter, go to Whitehop to warn those Grey Wardens up there. And same thing with the Hero Ferelden, the whole Morgan thing, and, you know, the God Baby, and you know, drinking from the Well of Sorrows, which I guess that is canon because she does have Mythal's memories and whatnot. But yeah, a little bit messy on the World State, but I was ultimately fine with it. But I do wish we had, you know, those references to, you know, from the other games, not just bits and pieces of like, oh yeah, Varric, you doing stuff in Kirkwall with Isabella and stuff like that. Like a little bit, a little bit bread, a little bit more bread, a little less crumbs. And last is certainly not least, Solus himself. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit disappointed that Solus was basically, backdrop for a lot of the game, but that comes like full circle, definitely getting completing the Regrets of the Dreadwolf quest, doing talking and convincing Mathal, and all that coming first full circle in Act 3, him betraying you, leaving you basically to rot in the Fade, and so he can take care of Algernon himself, and him getting the redemption arc, the redemption ending for Solus. I felt like that was that was really good, really well done. Oh yeah, and a few two more before I wrap up. Actually, the whole Varric thing, him being dead the whole time, I'm not really a big fan of that trope. And granted, I should have saw the signs, because it really didn't make sense that the companions weren't really acknowledging Varric, and I should have saw it, put two together when the Inquisitor was like, yeah, Solus hurt and killed some people that I cared about. I was like, who could the Inquisitor, who could he be talking about? I ain't put that together or whatnot, so maybe I should open my damn eyes more. I'm fine with them killing Varric or any character or whatnot, but I guess I should really pay attention more. And the other thing I really like is the choices and the big brain consequences in this game. I would say that in terms of like the main quest part, it's probably like the same level as like Dragon Age Inquisition and whatnot, but like I said in the other section of this video, a lot of the big brain quest the consequences are tied to the companion stuff and the factions. Like I said, the smaller scale story but worldwide reaching consequences definitely when it comes to Harding and Davrin. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, during my walkthrough in the final part 14 or whatever, I chose in the video, I had Harding go on that scouting thing to scout ahead and whatnot, and Davrin stayed with me. And before, I actually had Davrin go, and I saw the outcome of that, and Davrin died. That broke my heart. What broke my heart even more, it made me tear up a little bit, was Asan going after Davrin, trying to save him, and Asan dying with Davrin. I was like, oh my god, I had to redo it. I had to redo that whole entire freaking mission, because I would have been more okay if Asan didn't go after Davrin, but Asan did. I'm like, well, sorry, Harding. I love them all, but yeah, those type of consequences like really are freaking cool. And I like that. It's interesting because this is the first Dragon Age game where all your companions, all your companions can either die and whatnot, and you can't save them all. Usually in every single Dragon Age game, you can save your companions. Same thing with Mass Effect. I feel like this is the first Bioware game since, actually no, in Mass Effect 1, you had to choose between Ashley or Caden. I chose Caden because I think he fucking sucks, but even though Ashley, it's kind of terrible races in that game too. But it's been since Mass Effect 1, I guess Mass Effect 3 with the whole genophage thing, where a companion has to die no matter what. And I was like, oh man, part of me was a little disappointed that there wasn't a way to save them, even though we got all of them to Hero of the Veilguard status, and all of them liked me and liked our companions in the Veilguard and whatnot. But yeah, it just couldn't save them. And and like I said, I was a little bit disappointed in that, but also I like that at the same time, because I'm like, yeah, the consequences and whatnot. And yeah, Bioware really ice cold for that, not gonna lie. I like it, but really cold for that. So yeah, that is my rambling review for Dragon Age The Veilguard. Everyone, thank you for watching this, and thank you for joining me for another one. This is what, my 6th one that I've ever done. I started back in 2020 doing one rambling review, and that was for Marvel's Avengers, and yeah, that was a doozy. And my last one before Veilguard was Stellar Blade, I think. I was going to do one for Final Fantasy VII Reaper, but I just ran out of time and whatnot. But yeah, I feel like I'm getting better at this and whatnot. Usually I don't do reviews, but now I'm like, I got stuff to say. Again, it's not like my rambling reviews and whatnot aren't like structured reviews like you see from other content creators or sites like IGN, GameSpot and whatnot. I just like, it's more like a discussion of like my thoughts that I just that I type down and I talk into a freaking microphone, and that's basically my review. And I have have fun with that. So yeah, like I said, thank you for watching this, and thank you for joining me for this rambling review. Tell me your thoughts on Dragon Age The Veilguard. Was I off the mark? If I was I not, anywhere in between? And what are your thoughts ultimately on Veilguard? If you beat the game or halfway through and whatnot, I'd like to know in those comments section down below. So yeah, what I'm doing next for this YouTube channel is starting a brand new gameplay walkthrough very soon. I'll be starting my Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl walkthrough. Part 1 of that walkthrough would probably either go live Friday afternoon or Saturday afternoon. I cannot wait for that game. One of my most anticipated games of 2024. I've been looking forward to a Metro type game since we haven't gotten a new Metro game in a very long time. Granted, there's a Metro Awakening. It's a freaking VR title. I love Metro Exodus though. Last Light in 2033. Then after that, I don't know. We have Indiana Jones in like what, the first week of December. I mean, there's Thanksgiving, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to beat Stalker 2 by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, so I can have, you know, just time off and probably just chill, eat some din, watch arcade, and probably just stream some games. But we'll see. But with all that being said, I still have, you know, lots of content planned out from now to the end of 2024. So make sure you all subscribe, have that notification bell turned on, and make sure you set those notifications to all so you don't miss out on anything I post to this channel. And yeah, I think that's about it. Like I said, everyone, thank you for watching this, and thank you for joining me for this rambling review of Dragon Age The Veilguard. Thank you all for the love and support on this channel and on my other walkthroughs and on my channel as a whole. That didn't make sense. On this video and on my walkthroughs and my Let's Plays and live streams and on my channel as a whole. Thank you, much appreciated. Before I let you guys all go, if you guys could please leave a like on this video if you guys like what you saw. Please subscribe for more content, and it helps out this channel a lot. Also, when you do subscribe, make sure you hit the little notification bell next to the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any content I post to this channel, and make sure you set those notifications to all as well. Please share my channel and my videos to all your friends, families, cats, and dogs, and whoever who not. And you guys can all follow me on Twitter at Baytuh, Baytuh. If you want to keep supporting me even further, you can do so by donating to my Patreon, PayPal, YouTube Super Thanks, leave a tip, or become a YouTube member on my channel. That is patreon.com/Baytuh, Baytuh, and or paypal.me/Baytuh, Baytuh, and or through YouTube Super Thanks. All you have to do is click on any one of my videos or monetize, which is 99.9% of them, then hit the little more heart thanks button and donate however much you want. But regardless how you choose to support me further, any and all donation to everyone's much appreciated and is 100% completely optional. And with all that being said and out of the way, for the final time for my Dragon Age The Veilguard rambling review, my name is Malcolm, also known as Baytuh, and I will catch you guys all on my next walkthrough, Let's Play, channel post, update, live stream, rambling review, basically whatever else I'll do next on this channel, which is going to be very soon. Peace, thank you for watching, and I love you all.